Wednesday episode right here on Locked On Syracuse. We're talking football training camp. We're right stuck in the middle of it right now. A lot to talk about, so let's get to it right here on Locked On Syracuse.
Are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Matt Bonaparte, Owen Valentine with you here on Locked On Syracuse. Thanks for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Before we go any further, if you have any questions that you'd like answered on this here podcast, you have two modes, or actually, I guess three, in which you could get them answered. The easiest one, probably the YouTube comments here, right here on youtube.com. And then you also have our email, which is losyracuse44@gmail.com for visual viewers of the podcast. You have it right at the bottom of your screen right now, losyracuse44@gmail.com. Then you also go to LO_Syracuse on Twitter, where you can DM us. DMs are open. We look at them every day. Please be a part of the conversation. We'd love to hear from you. Okay. We are hearing a lot about training camp up until this point. Hasn't been anything big up until today. We're recording this on Tuesday, so everything from Tuesday, you're getting on the Wednesday episode. Emily Leiker from Syracuse.com tweeted today some kind of big news. I mean, there's no confirmation of what it might be, but a quote from her: some injury news from practice today. Safety JaHad Carter went down during a goal line snap and was taken away by ambulance. Babers told media Carter had feeling in all of his limbs and was responsive. Hospital was just a precaution. Should be an update tomorrow, which is Wednesday. First of all, I and Owen and I very much hope JaHad is okay. That's a scary thing. An ambulance is incredibly scary, and for her even to have to include that his limbs are intact and whatnot, I mean, that's just spooky. So I hope he's all right. Secondly, which is less important than his immediate health, is what does this mean? JaHad Carter, a very big part of this defense. A guy who was kind of coming into his own last year, missed some time due to injury, and this season I think was going to be a much bigger part in his third season starting with the program. He was, of course, a part of that kind of band of brothers who was so good in the 2020 season, um, where he had 2 picks, he defended 3 passes, he forced a fumble, recovered 1. He was really darn good in that 2020 year where the D-backs seemed like they were the only thing that was good, and as the team only won 1 game. But last year, he missed some time early in the season due to injury, had a down year for sure. But I had a lot of faith into him coming into this season that 11 would be really good. So I'm hoping that he can be healthy by week 1 and that he can still make that impact. But if they don't have him, I think you're going to see a bit of a different personnel back there.
Yeah, this is a big loss for Syracuse. And obviously we don't know, the implications of it, the
He could
time
be
frame.
fine.
We don't
Like, we
even
have no
know
idea.
what it is, right? It said it was precautionary. It really could have been as simple as that. A trip just to make sure everything was all right. Maybe he takes a day or two off and he's back on his feet, back in practice later this week. We don't know any detail outside of this. I mean, we're speculating, and the worst thing to do in media is speculate on injury. But that's the conversation that you sort of have to have today, right? We discussed a little bit yesterday about Isaiah Jones goes down and what that means. And that's the hypothetical, right? Isaiah Jones is a possible contributor to a wide receiver core. We don't know what he was going to do. When you look at a guy like JaHad Carter, he is, one of those guys that you think is going to be the staple of this defense. One of the really, really big contributors. One of the guys that you're going to look to, as you sort of said, continue to build. You remember that 2020 season where he was part of a sort of onslaught of new defensive faces that rose to prominence. I always remember, I think we talked about it before we got on here. I'm sure you remember it. As Syracuse fans, he was the interception behind the infamous pitch to Trill Williams for the touchdown. So to get around and run and that whole infamous play where was discussed briefly as the what if, that's JaHad Carter. He was there an outstanding freshman year and continued it last season as well, outside of a couple of missed weeks due to a minor injury. But this is an 18-game starter in 2 seasons. He's got over 100 tackles on the career, as you said, 2 interceptions, fumble recovery. This is a guy that you really expect to have a big season coming in for year 3. And as you sort of teased, and then I never really answered, what comes next? I guess I'll spin zone and send it right back to you.
Well, what comes next is you either have redshirt senior Eric Coley back there taking his place, or Amon Greenwood, who I don't know if you know this, Owen, but the audience knows by now I'm not high on Amon Greenwood. I hope he gets better, but from what I've seen from Amon over his time at Syracuse, he hasn't been special. So I actually think that that's a pretty big hole if JaHad is out. I think Coley will be okay. I mean, that's a guy who's dealt with a lot of injury at his time on the Hill, but he could make a decent fill in. But if they have to start giving Amon Greenwood real snaps, I think you're going to lose something in defensive backing. I mean, just being serious. Carter's a darn good player, and of course, again, we hope he's okay. But yeah, that's tough. And this is also a team where defensive back is a spot that is rock solid. So what does that say? I mean, you've got corners who are fantastic, and Deuce and Garrett Williams, who are both really, really darn good. And I think that of every position, maybe besides running back, of course, this was the least question mark. Maybe linebackers too. But you've had these guys for the 3rd season now, where they're all kind of coming up together, and JaHad not being a part of that would just be bad. So I think it would be a really, really big loss.
Definitely. I think when you look at, a guy like Eric Coley, yes, he can slide in there. But it is a drop, right? When you lose a guy like this, and as you just sort of mentioned, this consistency, right? To have 3 guys sort of work together, and 2 of them for 3 years now, and then you throw Deuce in there for year 2. That consistency is not to be overlooked by any means. I think there's a lot of that familiarity that goes such a long way. I have to ask you, was Amon Greenwood your him or Barama debate? Was that him last week?
Yes, it was
Yes.
him or
Okay.
DeBrama.
All right.
Um,
I needed to make sure that was. Now I'm aware of your distrust and your disappointment in
I'm
Amon
sure he's a
Greenwood.
great
Prove
guy.
him
I had a
wrong.
class with him.
Prove him
Good
wrong.
guy, but I hope he
Yeah.
proves me wrong.
Yes, I see. That's tough, right? You look at when you have that position, as you were saying, that is sort of set in stone. That is, it wasn't supposed to be a question mark, right? We go back to yesterday. I'll use it again. Isaiah Jones, the wide receivers. The wide receivers were a question mark this year. Are a question mark this year. The defensive backs weren't really supposed to be. And depending on, the severity of this injury, and as you sort of said as well, and my immediate reaction when you hear, Babers talks about all of his limbs removing, that's not the he's okay that you really want to hear. That's not the comfort answer when you're saying how bad was an injury and coach says, "Oh, all his limbs were moving." That's not
Scary.
very reassuring. It's definitely scary, and we all our thoughts and prayers go out to make sure that this is just a brief thing, and hopefully it's nothing too crazy. But this would be a big loss for Syracuse if JaHad Carter's out for a couple of games. He missed, I think it was a 3 or 4 game stretch last year. Came back just before the Clemson game, so he's a contributor. He's a guy that makes tackles. He's a presence, and as you saw in 2020, can force turnovers. And as you look at last year's team, that was not a recurring thing to see the Syracuse defense force turnovers. So it is a brutal blow to lose a guy that is one of your turnover machines or turnover forcing players. It's a tough thing to have to look to replace. Whether he's out for a week, whether he's out for a couple of weeks, we don't know. But it is a tough thing, and these next couple of days of practice reps are going to be very important for these second tier guys in the DB unit.
Yep. I think you're totally correct. Let's take a quick break. I'll tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the number one online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. Well, despite JaHad getting hurt, Dino Babers today said that in the scrimmage that they played, the defense definitely won. Which for a team that superstars, or one superstar, I guess, is on the offensive end, it's not really what you like to see. Though I think I'm going to take this as a win in saying that the defense is good. Because I actually do think that the defense is going to be good this season. I don't think you can ignore the fact that you potentially have multiple NFL players in your linebacking core alone and in your defensive backing core alone. Of course, the down linemen are the question marks. The edge is going to be, I don't know, something. Steve Linton, we talked about a little bit. Caleb Okechekwu, those guys on the edge, I don't really know if they're going to be fantastic or not. I have faith in Terry Lockett as the nose tackle, but I think that's going to be your biggest question mark. And we've been saying that, so people know that. But you've got a lot of talent on this defense, and I can't say I'm entirely surprised that they were better. We did get to see, if you're on Twitter scouring it like I am, you can see a couple plays here and there. There was that one play where Courtney Jackson made a nice catch on Garrett Williams. His number is 9, by the way, now, Courtney Jackson, from 85 to 9. I don't think I like that, but you do you, Courtney. Um,
Really? I don't
yeah,
hate it.
9. It always screws me up when I see new numbers, but it'll probably grow on me. But anyway, I think I'm going to take this as a win and say that I'm happy the defense played well.
Yeah, it's a win in that I guess I like that. The defense is good. The defense, we think we thought was good, and is showing it. But I don't think this is what I wanted to see today in terms of my confidence level in Garrett Shrader had been rising in terms of, what I'm seeing in preseason camp, what the reports are from preseason camp. This is not great for me in terms of my Shrader confidence level going into the season, right? The last week or so, it seems like everything I've been seeing and hearing has to do with how, Schrader's arm's gotten better and he looks good in drills and he's your clear cut number one. But here we are, and it seems like it was a pretty short 11v11. He throws 2 interceptions. I mean, maybe your arm is stronger, but if you're still throwing interceptions, that's not what you want to see. That's not bringing my energy up. That's not bringing up the confidence level in, Robert and I's ability to, make Shrader work in this new offense, right? If you're still throwing 2 interceptions in a pretty brief scrimmage, what does that mean? And from we'll shout Emily Liker again. She has a little report on the little more detail from the 2 interceptions, but there were the deeper throws that he's making. So a 30-yard throw, Deuce Chestnut intercepts one, and then Braylon Oliver gets an interception on a deep ball about 50 yards downfield. If you can't throw the ball more than 15 yards, I like Shrader. I like the way he approaches the game. But at the same time, there are quarterbacks, and I'm seeing good things from Carlos Del Rio Wilson. And the fact that we discussed this a couple of times earlier, that there are options for quarterback. Maybe Shrader is number one, but I don't want to call him out right now. But if we're not going to be able to see Shrader complete with any competence, throws more than 15, 20 yards down the field, then what difference is he bringing to the game, right? Can you not? Ugh, I'm on my rant right now. I want to see more out of this and to see, right? It's a repeat of last year, right? He's terrible throwing the ball downfield, can't throw the ball downfield. And I wanted to see him have this breakthrough as we start to see more and more plays from practice. And I'm not entirely sold yet. And 2 interceptions in a brief scrimmage today. on both longer balls. A 30-yard pass is not a true long ball. It's a deeper throw, but it's nothing crazy. Uh, I am disappointed to see this, and it has set me back a few notches on the Garrett Shrader confidence train.
Yeah, when I heard Garrett say that the offense this year is closer to an air raid than anything else, I was shook. I thought that the whole point of bringing in a new offensive coordinator was so we could look at playing to Garrett's strengths rather than his weaknesses, which is clearly his arm. And there are people out there who are going to try and defend his arm and say, "Oh, he's got a way better arm than you think he does," or something.
Prove
Dude,
it.
like he made like 3 throws. Congrats. Like he cannot consistently throw the ball down the field. I don't know why we're sitting here acting like Garrett Shrader has a cannon when we all know that his running capability is 10 times that of his throwing ability any day of the week. Um, it doesn't make much sense when you know you have a guy who's incredibly talented, by the way, at running the ball. He's a great mobile quarterback. Now, it
Yeah.
kind of gets difficult to call him a dual threat because he doesn't really have the arm, but um I don't know. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like why would you do that? And this is kind of Garrett's season to prove to the coaching staff, the media, and the fan base that he can kind of be the leader of this team and lead them to wins and lead them to a bowl game. Like if you're going to do it anytime, it's now. Last year was a little bit of a grace period because you were still learning the system. You were behind Tommy DeVito at the beginning of the year. It was a very weird situation, and you kind of had to make do with what you had. Now it's all you, Garrett. This is all you. And everybody kind of expects you to understand that. And I think he does, but with that comes the responsibility of these losses are more on me than they were before. And throwing these picks isn't going to get any like easier to deal with. So I don't understand why they're not playing to his strengths.
I agree. You said it. He's not really a dual threat quarterback. He is a dual threat quarterback in the fact that he is a quarterback who can run, but he is not necessarily a dual threat quarterback in the fact that he throws the ball well or with great accuracy or with great power. That's got to continue to be improved upon, and I am not sold at this point. I'm watching. I forget who it was with a little pass breakup today, and there's a couple of videos that I'm seeing on Twitter with pass breakups. And no disrespect to the defense, because we just talked about we think this is a very good defensive unit. They're just bad throws, right? Like it's if you're playing to knock down a ball that's supposed to be, to a receiver's full extension so they can turn the corner and get down the sideline, and it's hitting whoever's playing defense, if it's hitting one of the defensive backs on their inside shoulder, yes, it's a pass breakup, but more importantly, that's a terrible throw.
Bad throw.
That's going to cause you
Bad throw.
turnovers. It's near the sideline. That's where you're getting pick sixes. That's where you're going to get intercepted for really good field position. You can't afford bad throws. If you're going to miss on the sideline. Overthrow him, lead
Yeah.
him too far. I understand
I mean,
that.
it
You
has
can't
never
miss there,
looked
and it's a couple times. Yeah.
it has never looked like he's been comfortable throwing the football. It just doesn't look like it looks like a guy, it looks like a righty swinging lefty. Like that's what it looks like. Um, so I don't know why. This is the thing. Schrader's going to have to show up and kind of he's going to have to roll with the punches, but at the same time, he knows that. I mean, he's got to be confident in himself, right? But he knows that the questions in the locker room are coming afterwards. Game one about how did you feel in the new system in the game, whatever. Like
Yeah.
this new system is supposed to be built around you, Garrett. So if you struggle in it, what's the story, right? I mean, I guess you kind of
Yes.
point to coaching staff then and then be like, well, what were you thinking? But at the same time, it just seems to me, and I won't sit by and watch it happen because it's going to make me really mad, but it seems to me like we're setting the team up for failure.
Yeah. I think of it right now, and I will give him credit right now. The Schrader confidence is more for me than it was last year. I do think he is a little better than he was last year with the offseason work, but I'm going to use a comparison. I was painting a house the other day, and you go sort of shutter by shutter or line by line. And I was, on the ladder, and I was 1 or 2 steps up on the ladder, and I was like, "All right, I'm getting the taller ones," and I looked to my left, and, my colleague, my work associate in the painting business, was painting the same line as me from the floor. So, yes, I'm up on the ladder and that my confidence has risen. I'm 2 steps up, but at the same time, we're still where we started, all right? I'm not getting anywhere further than the team is as a whole in terms of this painting. It's a little bit of a tangent, story time we'll get in the books, but I think my point is like, yes, is a little bit more confidence, but where? What is that getting you? Right? It's getting you from I don't want to throw the ball, period, to yeah, maybe we can do some quick outs. 30-yard pass picked
Yeah.
off, 50-yard pass picked off. You said it. You can't air raid if you can't throw the ball far.
Yeah, and like I don't know. I feel like, you have like a once in a lifetime college running back. Like why is every play not how do we get that guy the ball? Like I get
Right?
like obviously I don't mean every single play, but like I don't understand why looking downfield is an option like even half the time. Like you have like a generational talent at running back. Use it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
Supposed to
Even
use
if
it,
it's
but
you dump the ball off to him on a screen pass 2, 3 times a game. Or I think I saw a goal line play, maybe it was day one, where Tucker, was a little play action. Tucker splits through the middle, quick move, gets the ball. Find him. Find ways to get him the ball in any way possible. Pitch him the ball, shovel pass. I don't care what it is. Give him the football. And throwing these passes right now is, as you said, taking the ball out of the hands of a generational talent in Orange. And it's a tough one to see. We're early, right? We can be proven wrong. I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope it was a bad, 15 minutes of scrimmage out of Shrader today. And it was just a bad, maybe it was raining out today in central New York. So maybe the ball was wet, slipped a little bit. You don't get, rain in the Carrier Dome. You don't get rain in the dome. We don't have to deal with that. You don't have to see it. So I'm going to give him the confidence, right? I tore him down a little bit. I'll bring him back up. I'm going to give him an out right now. It's early. Was it day 6 we're reflecting on today?
maybe I'm
I
not
think day
entirely sure.
6 of preseason camp we're reflecting on. A lot of time. I want to be proven wrong, and I want to see that this works because from what I've heard, the system is very good, and it should work, and it's a great idea, and it has worked. You saw it work last year at Virginia. You've seen it work with a guy like Taysom Hill at BYU in the past with Robert and I. Right, this is a system that can work. I'd love to see it work, and I just want a little bit more of a confidence boost from Garrett Shrader. So maybe tomorrow's media session gets a couple of better throws out there, and then I'm right back out on the high horse, ready to sit on the throne of Garrett Shrader's back, and this offense is going to kill it this year.
Well, we will have more for you tomorrow. Until then, go make Locked On ACC your second listen of the day. Host Candace Cooper and the local experts of Locked On take you across the ACC in 30 minutes. Make Locked On ACC your second listen. That is Locked On ACC. Like I said, Owen and I back tomorrow to talk more Syracuse, whatever the most pressing headlines, or maybe we'll play a game tomorrow. That's a tomorrow question. So we'll see you then.